O'Neill Outside Radio is brought to you by these fine sponsors. The Whitetail Institute of North America, the gold standard for food plots. Realtree, camo hunting, fishing, and land management products. Tough Shed, great storage sheds and custom buildings. Works, power and garden tools. Fisher's Choice, the ideal solution to live bait. CVA, quality muzzleloader since 1971. QDMA, Quality Deer Management Association. Arctic Ice, the most durable, versatile, and effective cooler packs available. And Furminator, the finest food plot implement on the market.
From Black Powder Headquarters and the Bojangled Studio at Three Falls Cabin in the North Georgia Mountains, it's time for O'Neill Outside. For anything in the outdoors, this is your source. Listen in and call the show with your comments or questions. And now, here's O'Neill.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of O'Neill Outside. O'Neill and Woman Williams are not in studio this morning. Scott Maximin is filling in for you here today. O'Neill and Woman Williams, I believe, are in Branson, Missouri, stalking Johnny Mathis again. We got a big show ahead of you today. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll start off by letting you know who is kind enough to sponsor our program every week. Starts with Works Tools, Realtree Camo, Stripling's General Store, Tough Shed, CVA muzzleloaders, and the new CVA Cascade centerfire rifle, Snellville Heating and Air, Appalachian Gun and Range, Thiessen's Hunting Apparel and Gear, Rocco's Pub up here in Jasper, Georgia, home of the awesome jalapeno poppers, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites, and the O'Neill Podcasts. That's right. You miss a program, you want to get some review time in with something you heard, just head on over to these sources: SoundCloud, iTunes, Waypoint TV, Google, and O'NeillOutside.com, and you can download the latest podcasts. So a big show ahead of us. We're going to take a look at the radio prize package coming up, O'Neill Outside Mailbag, the Medal of Honor recipient at the end of the program. Today's question: should you fish in the rain? We've got a rainy but a warm day here in Georgia. Maybe you should. We'll explore that a little bit. We have some habits of mature rutting bucks that you need to know about here. What are the qualities of a good hunting scope? If it's time to upgrade, I'll give you a few tips. Best of all, your calls. Give us a call, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. That'll put you in touch with me, and we could talk some outdoors for the next couple hours. And again, if you do want to catch up on O'Neill online, check him out with the podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Waypoint TV, Google, and O'NeillOutside.com. My name is Scott Maxim, former board op for O'Neill, sitting in for you here today as he takes a little time off to go run around the country with Woman Williams, and looking for your calls, 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk, WEEI Boston, and nationwide on SB Nation Radio. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill this morning. I want to give you the number if you want to give us a call and chat a little bit about the outdoors, some hunting and fishing. The number's 404-872-0750 or 800-972-8255 if you're outside the Atlanta calling area. And right now it's time to dive into the O'Neill Outside Mailbag. You got a question for O'Neill? Hey, maybe we can get yours on the air and hook you up with a cool $50 gift card or $50 worth of swag from our sponsors. Just head on over to O'NeillOutside.com. Scroll down the page, look for the big red Enter Now button for the O'Neill Outside guest book. Pop that button. It'll open up a dialogue that you can ask a question or give a comment to O'Neill. And if he chooses your question as the winner of the week, you're going to get an email that says, hey, you got $50 worth of swag coming your way. First question for today comes to us from Dale in Goodwater, Alabama. And it has to do with a sponsor of ours. He asks, can some of your big green egg recipes be cooked on a regular grill? Unfortunately, I don't have one, but want to try some of these recipes. They all look good. Well, yeah, Dale, nobody's stopping you, okay? You can bust out the conventional barbecue grill and go to town with the recipes, follow the, instructions as far as the spices and so on. But you can try to get the cooking results of the Big Green Egg. You probably won't. Here's why. The construction of that Big Green Egg is the secret to why it cooks so well. The ceramic materials help evenly distribute the heat more. The shape of the egg helps drive air from the bottom vent up through to help cook more evenly up through the top. And overall, it just creates a better environment for cooking your food. I've had chicken on this thing. It's the best I've ever had. So can you get good food on your grill following these recipes? Absolutely. But will it be Big Green Egg good? I'm going to say probably not. Thanks, Dale. Moving on. Kevin from Westland, Michigan asks, what caliber would you recommend for a new hunter that's 14 years old? My son is ready for that first deer and is ready to hit the woods. Well, there are plenty of options for a 14-year-old as far as a caliber to shoot, okay? But the question is going to be, it's going to come down to the child itself, okay? Is this a big 14-year-old? Is this a slight 14-year-old? You're going to want to take this into account when you start dealing with recoil issues, okay? The smaller kid might be better off with something like a 243 cal, 270, maybe a 30-30. They have light recoil. They're plenty good for taking deer. There's no problem finding that ammo, and might be good for a slighter kid. Now, if you've got a bigger kid, okay, go with a 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, and 30-06. Standard rounds, really great rounds, all of which will take the deer, and all of which are very effective for what you're looking for. Now, as to my personal choice, if your 14-year-old can handle it, go to 308. Okay, and here's why. It's inexpensive. There's plenty of 308 ammo out there that does not cost a lot, and what that does is that enables you to get a lot of practice in before you go out and take that first buck for real. Put a lot of rounds on paper, make sure that you've got that covered before you hit the woods. Secondly, it offers more options for use. Now, I'm a big fan of multiple uses for a single caliber or a single bullet. Okay, in this case, the 308 can be used not only in bolt actions, but can be also used in semi-auto rifles. Why would you want that? Well, if you decide you want to go do some hog clearing, hog hunting, the semi-auto rifle is really good, and you get one chambered in 308, and it is a hog slammer. So its versatility adds to the appeal of that round for me. Okay. Thirdly, that round, the 308, is made by every rifle manufacturer out there. Not one does not make that round. So what that does is that gives you the broadest range of choices for the weapon for your child. So I hope that helps you out, and good luck on that, and let us know if you bag a deer or send a picture. We'd love to post that up on the O'Neill website. Moving on, we've got Carl from Ackworth here in Georgia asked the question, at what age is a buck at his prime and ready to be harvested? Well, a deer is considered an adult at 4.5 years. Okay, so at 4.5 years old, that deer is technically ready to harvest. Okay, but wait a little while. Okay, when the deer is between 5 and 7 years old, well, that is when you're going to see the best years for antler growth. Meaning, quite simply, if you want the best rack, hold off on that deer a little bit, let it grow a few more years, and that rack will grow in a lot better. Okay, after about 8 years, the racks tend to decline. That's not firmly in stone, but that's a general belief. So what you want to do is you want to look somewhere between 5 and 7 years for the prime bucks to harvest. Okay, now how can you tell the age of the deer? That's a very good question. Now, we're not really concerned with the actual age of a deer. They don't carry birth certificates or have ID, so we can't really be that specific. What we're concerned about are 3 basic classifications for the deer. Young deer. These are yearlings up to about 2 years old. Okay? The physical characteristics are long legs, long thin necks, high flanks, rumps that are higher than their shoulders, and an overall slim and dainty appearance to the animal. When you're talking about a middle-aged buck, you're talking 3 to 4 years old. Characteristics include thick, muscular necks, necks that swell from the shoulders, heavily muscled, rounded hindquarters, bellies that are full but not sagging, legs that no longer appear long and gangly, so they've kind of grown into them, and flat backs that don't sway. Okay? As we move on to the older bucks, they are between 5 and 7 or more years old. Their characteristics include swayed backs, little pot bellies on them, heavy necks and shoulders, necks that blend into their chests, short or stubby appearing legs, and squinty eyes. So I would almost say it kind of follows the same rule as people. You can tell an older buck from a younger buck, so hope that'll help you out there as far as harvesting your next buck. Okay, Sue from Atlanta asked this question. Several months ago, I was reading the newspaper from my hometown, a small town in New England, where some young men were arrested for a variety of hunting violations, including shooting deer while sitting inside their truck and jacklighting. I realize that state laws vary, but why can't you shoot from inside your truck, as it seems it would serve as a good blind? Also, can you explain jacklighting and why is it bad? Okay, jacklighting, that's spotlighting or shining a deer in the dark. Basically, you throw a big bright light out there, be it the headlights from a car or a spotlight, it blinds the deer and you can nail it. It's not sporting. It's not fair. That's why it's illegal, okay? Secondly, when you shine a light on an animal in those conditions with a very dark in the background, you don't know what's behind that animal. You don't know where that shot, if you miss, is going to go and what it's going to hit. That's an unsafe condition and not good for shooting, okay? You always want to be aware of your total environment, not just a partial bit of it, okay? When you're shooting from a vehicle, there are some rules. One, the engine can't be going, okay, at all, anything on at all. Two, you can't be inside the vehicle in a lot of states that don't do it. Three, you're allowed to use the vehicle as a means of support, but that's about it, okay? So it varies from state to state, but as far as the whole jacklighting, spotlighting thing is concerned, it's just not sporting, it's not cool. Don't do it, okay? I got about a minute left. I want to see if I can get quickly through one thing here. I got a question from Thomas in Clearwater, Florida, asks, do you think the introduction of the snakehead fish in Georgia will have a large effect on native fish? Okay, here's the deal. There is a seek and destroy order on this fish from the Georgia DNR. You kill it immediately. Do not release it, okay? It can survive on land for up to 3 days. If possible, take pictures of the fish, including close-up of its mouth, fins, and tail. Note where it was caught with GPS coordinates if available, and report to your DNR. Why? Because they are breeding machines. They go nuts. They can lay 15,000 eggs after 2 years of age and mate 5 times a year. They eat everything and are highly vicious. Destroy the snakehead if you see it. If you got a question, or give us a call, 404-872-0750. You're listening to O'Neill Outside. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill this morning. And if you would like to give us a call, the number is 404-872-0750. 800-972-8255. Real quickly, let's go to the phones. We got a special caller here that likes to touch base with us every week. And, oh, come on now, work with me. Can I hear you? Who's calling here?
Don from Ocean Isle, North Carolina.
That's what I thought. Sorry, Don, I was getting a little wonky here with my phone screening software, but I'm glad I got you on here. Talk to us, brother. What's in store for you today?
Well, it's been a good fall over here. The spots are still running, which is unusual for some years. And then we got Thanksgiving coming up. In the old days, the traditional meal for the old-timers over here was spots on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh, okay. You know what? And that actually leads me to something I was thinking about kicking out there anyway. Let's throw it out there. If any of y'all got a special Thanksgiving meal that's from your hunting or fishing expeditions every year, you know, venison steaks or, like you say, in these spots on the plate, by all means, give us a call and let us know what your Thanksgiving hunting tradition food is. So, yeah, that sounds great, Don.
Yeah, like I say, the spots always were running this time of year, and they were very plentiful. So what they ate for Thanksgiving was the spots, and too in those days we had big mullet runs, and they didn't have grills in those days, but they would put them on a cedar stick and put them over an open fire, and all the grease coming out of the mullet would make the smoke and flavor the fish. So it's a very strong fish, but when you cook it like that, it's very, very good. But
sounds fantastic,
then we're into the festive season, and then the fall of the year we get into. I mean, in the first of the year we get into redoing the reels and redoing the line, and then we go into tying rigs till we try to get enough for the summer.
Outstanding.
And we got I don't know if you're familiar with this area over here, but we've got a shoal that runs out in the ocean about 42 miles. Some places the shoal can be 3 or 4 feet underwater. And at the end of that shoal, they used to have a Liberty ship they would tie out there, and they'd break loose every once in a while. And then in the 60s, they built a tower that's it's about 50 feet of water at the end of the shoal. And that's some of the best fishing there is around here. It's sort of like a rig down in the Gulf down there. And
what is it? It's just like the currents make it favorable for the fish to come around that area or something like that?
Yeah. I've caught kings there in 66-degree water simply because of the bait that's there. Normally, kings, you got to catch them in 70-plus water. But if the bait's there, they'll come in 66-degree water. And they're trying to do, to put some towers offshore for drilling. And that would be some of the best thing that's ever happened in this area for habitat for the fisheries. But
well, hold on. I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Don, you're saying that actually putting an oil rig out there would be beneficial?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Well, why would that be?
Well, because of the habitat for the fish. When you go in the Gulf, where do you go fishing? Around the rigs, because that's where the fish are.
Outstanding. Okay,
why
interesting.
Why do you rob a bank? Because that's where the money is.
I've never heard that before. I find that fascinating, and it's actually seems to go in the face of conventional, quote-unquote, environmentalist thinking, if you will, that these things are nothing but eyesores and evil for the environment wherever they spring up.
How are you going to see them 42 miles offshore when the curvature of the earth, you can't see past 8 miles?
I'm not asking you to reason it out for me, Don. I'm just saying what they're saying.
I know, but the tree huggers are against everything that has anything to do with helping the country, So, but anyway, that's but that would be one of the greatest things that ever happened to this area if they would put those towers out and we have a long bay here, and you have to get 70 miles. 70 miles offshore to get out of the 60-foot water, 65-foot water.
Oh, right on.
So you don't have to drill for 1,000 feet before you hit to the bottom.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Well, Don, you getting out there and going to whack a couple here in this weekend?
No, we do. I don't deer hunt. I mainly fish, and we do that because over here we do a lot of bottom fishing, and we do catch and eat over here. So that's. The bottom fish in the ocean, you never know what you're going to catch, and it's always exciting. And sometimes you see a fish you've never seen before, and I've been fishing for 30-some-odd years over here offshore.
Well, awesome, man. Well, I'll tell you what, have yourself a great one, sir, and it's been a pleasure talking with you as usual.
Go Dogs.
Yeah, that's right. We got A&M today, man. What is it? The pregame stuff starts at 11:30 today, and I believe kickoff is at 3. So, go Dogs! They're going to stomp A&M, man.
Thanks, sir.
You can hear that here on WSB.
Nice talking to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have yourself a great one.
You have a good happy Thanksgiving.
I will do that thing, sir. Right back at you.
Bye-bye.
All right, y'all. 404-872-0750. That's the number. 800-972-8255 if you are outside of the Atlanta calling area. And I need to get into this Where's my bad boy? The radio prize pack. We need to address this right now. And it's a big one, y'all. Check out what you can win with this week's prize pack. 1 week, no charge on the gun range at Appalachian Gun and Range, a Bojangles gift card, Angler Magazine, the Georgia DNR regulations, and a DNR hat to go with that, 1 can of Fisher's Choice baits, a selection of True Turn Roadrunner tackle, grocery coupon for a free package of Swaggerty's premium sausage patties. You can get them in Lynx or the 1 pound roll, and an Arctic ice pack. This week's question: name a podcast source where you can hear O'Neill's podcasts. Now, I read them out a little bit earlier. If you can come back with one of those, then Jason will get your information and we will send you the prize pack. The number again, 404-872-0750. Outside of the Atlanta calling area, 800-972-8255. Now, I want to get back into something here real quick, and I kind of blew through it in the last segment, was talking about these northern snakehead fish that are coming into Georgia, and someone asking if it's a big deal. Well, the DNR wants them dead, okay? And let's get a little more specific as to why. And here we go. A little bit of background on them. First, they're native to China, Russia, North Korea, and South Korea, okay? Here in Georgia, they're an invasive species. Actually, here anywhere in the United States, they're an invasive species. Now, the biggest problem, they can compete with and often outcompete the native fish for resources, okay? So they can just go in there and blow through everything, and including eat a lot of these native fish as well. We talked about their sexual maturity. It's between 2 and 3 years. Each spawning age female can release 15,000 eggs at a time, and these fish can mate 5 times a year. Now, what distinguishes these fish from others? Okay, what makes them stand out? Okay, first of all, they're very primitive-looking, weird fish. I mean, they look like they're millions of years old. They got this long, almost eel-like body, very thin. They have a long dorsal fin with 49 to 50 rays on it, and an anal fin with 31 to 32 rays on the top and the bottom, almost symmetrical and very low to the fish's body itself. The eyes are above the middle part of the upper jaw. They have an interiorly depressed head, okay? They have a large mouth, and it extends well beyond the eye, lower jaw protruding just a bit, but it's loaded up with sharp, pointed teeth. And these things, man, they are nasty if you get a look at them, okay? They have large canines in them and on the lower jaw as well. They can reach a length of up to 3 feet, 3 inches, okay? Highly, highly aggressive. They will bite people as well as any kind of fish around them. And they're top-level predators here, okay? But here's where it gets the really, just absolutely the weirdest thing about these fish. They can live on land for up to 3 days and walk. Say what? Yeah. This fish has a primitive lung. It's an area just up inside its cranium where it can actually draw in air and survive on land for up to 3 days. This is unbelievable. And that's why the DNR says kill them, because this gives them an advantage that no other fish has in the area, okay? It can literally get up out of its pond, march across a body of land, jump into another one, and carry on where it left off, breeding like crazy and eating and killing everything. So that's why the snakehead is a problem here in Georgia, and that's why they need to be wiped out. All right, checking the phones here. Looks like we got a... Do we have a winner? Got a couple people calling here. Looks like we might have a winner for that prize pack. In the meantime, let me remind you that you can catch O'Neill outside the podcasts all over the place. But I can't tell you about it until after the prize pack, so we'll have to get back to that in a minute. Let's see if one of these calls ready to go here. Hit my refresh. Okay, all right. I just got word they're taking the information from these callers here, so we will get back to them after the break. If you have a question for yours truly, 404-872-0750 is the number. Give me a call. I'll help you out. ongoing question for today is, what part of your hunting or fishing this week or at any time is going to be a part of your Thanksgiving dinner? You got a traditional hunting or fishing feast? Let us know how that works with your Thanksgiving. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you give us a call and tell us what you're thankful for? My name is Scott Maxim. I'm filling in for O'Neill here on O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Scott Maxim filling in for O'Neill this week, and the numbers you can call me at are 404-872-0750 or 800-972-8255. Not much traction here on the O'Neill Outside prize pack. Let's see if we can throw that question out there again, get a few more people on the line. Reminding you, here's what you can win: a 1 week of no charge, free shooting, at the Appalachian Gun and Range here, Bojangles gift card, Angler Magazine, the Georgia DNR regulations, and a hat to go with it, so you look totally like you're in the game. 1 can of Fisher's Choice baits, a selection of True Turn / Roadrunner tackles, grocery coupon for a free package of Swaggerty's premium sausage patties, either in Lynx or the 1 pound roll, and an Arctic ice pack. The question: name a podcast source where you can hear O'Neill's podcasts. I told y'all at the top of the hour. Let's see who can remember. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. So I'm checking out today's forecast here in Atlanta and around Georgia here, and we are going to be rained on for the most part today. However, it should be fairly warm. We're looking for some highs today in the 60s, and that's not bad. But is it a good day for fishing? Well, let's see what, let's see. Does it make sense to do it? Absolutely. And let's take a few minutes here and talk about what you can do to make fishing in the rain actually more productive, but also enjoyable. Now, the first thing, of course, when you're dealing with rain, dress appropriately, okay? If you plan on being outdoors and you're going to be in the wet, you're going to need some good gear, some good weatherproofing gear, all right? Think Gore-Tex for material for waterproofing. Think Thinsulate, or something similar for linings, because you're going to want to stay warm and you're going to want to stay dry. Now, if no other reason, the reason for that is because you stay positive when you're out in the wet. Nobody likes to be soaking wet out in the rain, even if you are fishing. It doesn't work. So do yourself a favor, get yourself some quality gear right off the rip, okay? Now, are you planning on being on a boat? Well, make sure that you plan for there being some slipperier surfaces on that boat. Make sure you have very good shoes with high adhesive qualities, rubber boots, duck boots, that kind of thing. Make sure your flotation gear fits comfortably and securely over your rain gear. You don't want to be in a situation where you get out on the, getting ready to get on the boat and then find out that you got too much stuff on and this thing won't expand enough to safely protect you in the water, okay? If it gets a little chillier, consider carrying some of these chemically activated heat packs. I don't know if you've seen these or not. Small little heat pack, maybe about 4 inches, squarish sort of, but you give it a little break, get a little flexible with it, and what it does is there's a couple chemicals in there that react and provide a heat source for you to keep your hands warm, to keep your feet warm, and just make it overall a more enjoyable experience if you get on the water, okay? Now, as far as the boots themselves, we talked about them having, being good for adhesion or grip on a boat, but waterproof boots overall are the best option because a lot of times we may just want to fish from the shore. So you want to make sure that if you step into a puddle that you don't know is that deep, or if you're just walking around in marshes and whatnot, your feet stay warm, your feet stay dry. So just make sure you have a nice pair of waterproof boots to go out there. Also, I saw this tip. I thought this was great. Keep an extra pair of socks in a plastic bag or waterproof container just in case. Well, sometimes something happens. You get wet feet. Okay, well, nobody likes walking around in wet socks, but a Ziploc bag with a pair of socks in them surely would come in handy, okay? Now, we got our rain gear together. We got our clothing together. Now we want to think about safety first, okay? First thing you're going to do is check your local forecast before you head out. Now today here, we've been hearing about rain for the most part, but nothing about thunder and lightning, okay? So if thunder and lightning is present in your forecast, bag any idea of going out fishing, okay? Fishing in a light rain is okay, but never, ever when there's lightning in the forecast, and you never go into an open lake when there's lightning present. Ever. Why? Because you're a lightning rod, okay? You chuck a line, a fishing pole in the middle of a lake, you are a lightning rod. If you're on a metal John boat, forget about it. You're a lightning rod. So don't ever, ever go out if there's lightning in the forecast. If you get out and it does start to have a problem with thunder and lightning, have a safe shelter nearby just in case. Whether it's a cabin, a nice sturdy fishing shack, anything that will keep a storm off of you is good for you in that instance. So get off the lake, get out of wherever you're at, get under shelter if it starts getting really ugly, okay? Last thing to think about for safety, is your cell phone charged up? Never, ever go into the woods or fishing or on the lake unless you have a fully charged cell phone or unless you are in radio contact with somebody close by, okay? Is that cell phone functional in the rain? Make sure of that. A lot of them are not waterproof. A lot of them are not splash proof. If they get water on them, they'll die. You'll be out of luck when you need it to work, and that is not a good option. So make sure you at least have some waterproofing. If not, get a waterproof case. Waterproof cases are the best option. If you drop it in the water, you can easily retrieve it without loss of the cell phone. They can go a little deeper depending on the case. So if you drop it in deeper than 3 foot of water, if you can get it, you'll be in good shape. A lot of them, built-in water protection doesn't go past 3 feet, okay? So safety aside now, let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. When you get out to where you're going to fish, fish right before the weather starts turning, okay? Fish before the storm. Why would you want to do this? Low barometric pressure gets fish moving. They get active. Right before the storm comes in, the barometric pressure drops, okay? And the fish get more active. So they'll start moving, before the rain, heavier rain moves in. Now, when the heavier rain moves in, they will tend to get a little less active. So at that time, you can kind of just chill out, maybe go back in the cabin for a little while, wait for the weather to pass. But those conditions return as soon as that weather passes. The barometric pressure starts dropping, and you get more active fish. So there you go. Another thing to do, when you're working, when you want to find a place where the fish are going to be active during periods of rain, you're going to want to work active currents and runoff areas, okay? And what are those? Well, where the water is moving near drains, inlets, spillways, okay? Because this water that's flowing into your river or your lake or whatever, draining off from the land around it, is going to get the fish active in that area for a couple reasons. One, it churns up a lot of their food sources, bait fish, whatever, those kind of little things. It gets the fish hunting around that area because those little bait fish are more active. Secondly, it oxygenates the water. When the water gets oxygenated, the fish are going to be more active. They're going to be hungrier. They're going to be looking to take care of business with whatever food source is readily at hand. So that's why you're going to want to move those active areas, okay? When you're out on a lake and you're looking for an area to hit on the lake, think about wind-blown shorelines. In other words, whichever direction the wind is blowing towards, start working your way towards that side of the lake where the wind is blowing. Why? Because bait sources are pushed by the wind. It's good feeding grounds for the fish. They start getting active around those areas as well. And what you're going to find is they tend to be more active around the shoreline and the ridges where the natural bait fish are going to gather, okay? Another tip here for you. Get loud. Get colorful. The rain muddies up the water, makes it more difficult to see for fish to see your bait, okay? Use brightly colored, high contrast artificial lures. In addition, use lures that make noise, like crankbaits or popping corks. Gets the fish attention, helps them to kind of direct their vision, if you will, towards the source of that sound and towards your bait. Try this. Pick up the speed of your cast a little bit. You might try, the retrieve. Pick up the speed of your retrieve. A little bit faster might mean that little faster action is easier for that fish to spot in that muddier water, and they will hit something more aggressively if it gets their attention in that manner. Finally, stick to top water. When the fish are active in the rain, they're going to be generally closer to top, and as we mentioned, the wind-blown shores. You're going to want to stay on the surface as you're looking for these fish, or try working it a couple feet down. Oh, I see we've got some winner here. Let's get an answer to that prize pack question. I see we have Steve calling from Lilburn. Steve, can you hear me this morning, sir?
I can hear you perfectly.
Outstanding. What do you got for me as far as an answer? Where can we find O'Neill's podcasts?
One place is iTunes.
iTunes is correct. Outstanding. In addition, you can find it on SoundCloud, Waypoint TV, on Google, and O'NeillOutside.com. So you got yourself a big old prize package there, Steve.
Oh, thank you so much. That sounds wonderful.
Oh, and you know, right for the holiday season, so you got some cool little goodies there. You got any big plans for Thanksgiving coming up?
Well, my wife and I are hoping to have a quiet day at home. We have got it made. Both of our families live just far enough away where we're going to have to get involved in all the drama unless we want to.
So laying low for the weekend,
this year should be a good one.
And I'm hoping now, and of course now,
and I hope they're not listening.
This is not Steve; it's his evil twin. But no, I hope she's down with some football too now, because if she is, she's a keeper, man.
Oh, she's definitely a keeper. We share a lot of the same interests, and I'll tell you, this might sound bad to some people, but if I never had to speak to or see anybody but her ever again for the rest of my life, I'd be perfectly happy. So
Sir,
I've got it made. Lucky guy.
There is nothing wrong with that at all, and that sounds a little bit like what everybody in the world wants.
You should aspire to, absolutely. You find someone like that, you hang on as hard as you can.
Absolutely, sir. So let me ask you this now. Do you have any hunting or fishing food that winds up on the Thanksgiving table?
No, we hunt and gather at the Ingalls for Thanksgiving. So that's about the extent of my story, my hunting story for Thanksgiving.
Well, you know what? Hey, we all work it any way we can, my friend. In the meantime, you've got yourself a great prize package.
Oh, thank you.
Have yourself a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. Stay dry and enjoy your holiday.
Absolutely. You too. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a great one. All right, y'all. Oh, man, I love when somebody wins these prize packs, man. And, yeah, Steve worked for it. I got to give it to him, man. He hung around for a while and got himself a prize pack. If you want to give me a call, 404-872-0750 is the number, 800-972-8255 if you're outside the Atlanta calling area. And before I go to break, I want to tell you about one thing here while I was going through my research this week for this week's program. And it's kind of a sadder story, but it's something that we need to be aware of as fishermen and outdoorsmen. Earlier this week, a fisherman up on Lake Lanier made something of a sad discovery. Jason Millen, fisherman, up in Hall County, discovered a minivan underwater in Lake Lanier. And so the man in the van was 56-year-old Van Dobbs. He went missing on June 6th. And the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office has been conducting an extensive search for Mr. Dobbs with the assistance of the Georgia State Patrol, Division of Natural Resources, Law Enforcement Division. And it just was a fruitless search for a long time, but the fishermen found it. Every now and again, this is what happens, y'all. We will find something that is unfortunate. In this case, a sunken minivan with a deceased man in it. But if that happens, you know, make the call to the authorities. You may have to hang around for a while, and you may have to be a witness, but it is unfortunate. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Almost done with our first hour of outdoor radio here today. My name is Scott Maxim. I'm filling in for O'Neill and Gail today as they head on out to Branson to enjoy a little bit of fun out there with their favorite musical artist, Johnny Mathis. And I think, if I had to guess, if I had to guess, I think this is probably the 800th time that Gail and O'Neill have seen Johnny. And I think actually right now Johnny ought to start popping for some dinners for him every time they show up. But hey, that's just me. O'Neill outside here, 404-872-0750. Give us a call. Let us know what's on the plate this year as far as any hunting or fishing for your Thanksgiving dinner. And let us also know what your plans are here heading into the weekend. Now, before we go to the top of the hour with the news and sports and weather and such, I want to tell about a little story here that I came across. This is interesting. A former Michigan lawmaker, state lawmaker, had another one-in-a-million experience here with a deer. Now, I talked about one previously where a gentleman shot a doe with a full rack. Well, this gentleman actually took a photo of a 3-antlered deer up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. What? Yeah, for real. Steve Lindbergh, he's a former state representative. He lives up in Marquette. He posts wildlife photos to his Facebook page. He's a former hunter, and now he just goes out and takes picture. Well, just before rifle season up there in Michigan, he caught an image of a white-tailed deer with 3 antlers. Now, the left antler looked pretty normal, okay? The right side, if you had to look at it, sort of looks like if the stalk would come out normally and then branch off, it kind of looks like somebody just jammed the whole thing into the animal's head and it branched off with 2 stalks right from there. So what would cause this? Well, more than likely it's something that happened in utero with the animal, some kind of damage or malformation of a blood supply to the pedicles. And so what happens is you get a crazy little growth of horns. Now, the funny thing is, you don't really know how to score it because you don't know if it's a 3 or 2 antlered animal, but who cares? You got 3 antlers, you win. Hour 2 from Black Powder headquarters at the Bojangles Studio in the North Georgia mountains. We are back for hour 2 of O'Neill Outside. You can hear us live every Saturday on 95.5 WSB in the South. That's Atlanta's News and Talk. In the North, on WEEI Boston, and coast to coast, left to right, SB Nation Radio is where you're going to hear us. This hour, we're going to do the Medal of Honor recipient here at the end of the program. Whew, and that's some heavy stuff every week, can I tell you? We're going to take a minute here with the Ram Fishing Report, hopefully later on. Some habits of mature rutting bucks. Some things to look out for that'll help you nail a few here in this hunting season. And what are the qualities of a good scope? If you're looking to upgrade your rifle with a new hunting scope, I'll give you some ideas and some pointers of what you need to look for to make sure that that scope is a good piece that'll serve you for a long time. We got some news from the outdoors as well, and your calls, 404-872-0750 in the Atlanta metropolitan area, 800-972-8255. I'm going to go straight to the phones right now to start off the hour with a gentleman, I believe, named Roadster. Are you there, Roadster?
I'm here.
Outstanding. What's going on today with you, sir?
Hey, Scott Maxim. How are you, buddy?
Well, life is good in the fast lane, sir. I'm highly caffeinated, very motivated, and just happy as heck to be sitting in here this morning with O'Neill.
I'm glad you are, because, buddy, I had a hard time just a minute ago just trying to call you. Duck hunting this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Ducks Unlimited. I used to do a little of that when I was younger on the Tennessee River. And you know how treacherous this time of the year is, especially our great callers like Hank the Yank will tell you how these storms pop up, and you go in the morning and you get everything going, and you're coming back across that river, and the next thing you know, you've got 3-foot swells.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about that in a second. I've got to bail for a break here real quick. I'm going to put you on hold and stand by. We'll talk about that in a minute. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on WSB. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. And before we get back into the call here with Roadster. I want to remind you that the program is brought to you today by Works Tools, Realtree Camo, Stripling's General Store, Tough Shed, CVA Muzzle Loaders, the new CVA Cascade Centerfire, Snellville Heating and Air, Appalachian Gun and Range, Thiesen's Hunting Apparel and Gear, Rocco's Pub in Jasper, Georgia, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources and Georgia State Parks and Historic Sites, and, of course, the O'Neill Podcast. We had a winner earlier for the prize pack who knew that you could hear it on iTunes, but you can also hear it on SoundCloud, Waypoint TV, Google, and o'neilloutside.com. Let's go back to the phones here with Roadster. And I'm sorry about having to bail on you there for a minute, Roadster. Wanted to get back to you here real quick. You got a duck hunting thing you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, just what happens, especially I'm sure Hank the Yank can tell you too. You go early in the morning, the water's calm on big water. Mm-hmm. The next thing you have a good day, and it's getting kind of in the time to go home, and all of a sudden a storm comes up, which like on Tennessee River or Lake Lanier or Lake Michigan. Next thing you know, you say, well, I'm gonna go across that big water, or I'm gonna stay on land. I was involved in a Tennessee River. Unfortunately, it was a recovery.
Oh, yeah.
Three young men who went in the water, and what a lot of people do not understand, if you go in the water with that kind of wind, you can't see where you are in the water. Mm-hmm. You're floating on with your life preservers and everything. You can't see. You got 3-foot waves in your back in 40-degree water with about probably an hour.
Yeah.
So you got to make that decision where I'm going to stay on land and be cold all night, or I'm going to try to make it across that big water.
Yeah, well, you know what? When it all comes right down to it, don't take the chance. Safety's always the best option.
Exactly.
Outstanding. Well, Roadster, appreciate the tip there, my friend. You going to get into anything as far as hunting, or you got anything for Thanksgiving that you're going to bring in from the field or from the lake?
Well, we're going to have, I think we're going to have, it's supposed to rain in Atlanta, and I got the
I think we're losing you there, brother. Yep. I'm sorry. We lost Roadster there. Bad cell, but no problems. We'll go right back to the phones here, and hope you have a great one there, Roadster, and call us back again when you can. Let's hit the phone lines again. Talk to Mac. What's going on, my friend?
Hello, Scott. How are you this morning?
I am doing extremely well, sir, and having a great time here today, and might I add, in keeping with the theme, very thankful to be here today.
Understood and agreed. No question. No question. So we have more to be. But next week we need to take. I always try and take time to think about it. We really are so blessed here in this area, and we got a lot to be thankful for. So.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, what's on the agenda today, my friend? I mean, you going to get out on the lake with the rain here today, or no?
I am waiting to hear from two gentlemen right now. And I told them to watch the radar and call me at 5:30 right after we got through with this. So. I don't know. The radar's not that pretty, so I'm going to let them make the call. But if I had my druthers, I'd get out there and go for it. It's raining, but it's not – I don't see any violent weather. A good rain suit. They'll probably bite today, so it's not cold. I'd go for it.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about that earlier, about it seems kind of counterintuitive to want to actually go fishing in the rain, but it really gets those fish active and moving.
Oh, man, so many times you've got – anytime you get an approaching cold front, of course, the problem with an approaching cold front is rain and then the pending weather change. And usually behind that cold front, it's really not good fishing. And we've seen that here on the near, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 weeks, those post-frontal days have been pretty tough. Days like today and yesterday, fishing was really good. That weather moving in really gets the fish moving and active. So it's more fun to fish when you're dry, but again, like today, it's not super windy. It's not dangerous weather. Strap on the rain suit and go. I think you'll be pleased you did.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I'm just out walking around in it earlier, and this, we just got some mist up here on the mountain and a little bit of raindrops here and there, and it is actually surprisingly warm today.
It's very pleasant outside. So yeah, I would urge you guys, if you're doing like I'm doing now, or like my clients are, go. You know what? I tell them this too. You can always go if the weather's worse than you anticipated, and you get soggy wet and you're cold. You can always come home.
Yeah, really. I mean, defer to the option of actually going out and doing the thing versus not doing it all. And, you could either say, okay, I went out there and it didn't work out and come back home, or you could sit at home and say, darn, I wish I'd gone out.
That's the kicker right there. You don't know how many times over the years we look at the radar and, we're not going to go, and then at 9:30 it's light rain, it's warm, you're thinking, daggum. And then you talk to somebody that did go, and they'll hurt your feelings. So, man,
yeah. Oh, you're not going to believe it. I found the world's biggest fish out on Lanier. I got the big bass.
They were biting everywhere I went. Dude, where were you? Yeah, that's part of my motivation. If you want to know the truth, Scott, I don't want to come back and get the aftermath from all my buddies. Man, you should have gone. It was great. I don't want to hear that. I want to be the guy that says, you should have been there. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 110%. Hey, Mac, when the weather clears up, where do people get in touch with you so they can arrange for a little bit of fun on Lake Lanier with you, my friend?
Well, they can call us at 770-271-0851, or you can always reach us 24/7, 365 online at CaptainMax.com. That's CAPTMACKS.com. And we keep a pretty detailed fishing report on there too. If you go to our website, that you might enjoy reading for Lakes Hartwell and Lanier, and we put that on O'Neill's site too. But that'll give you some pretty detailed information. So check that out.
Oh, cool. And can I assume gift certificates are available for holiday gift giving?
Oh, absolutely. We've got a gift certificate. Yeah, no question. So give
right
that
on,
to
my
the
friend.
Recipients. Yeah, they can call us and redeem the trip whenever they want.
Outstanding. Well, great to hear from you, Mac. And, if you don't get out today, kick back and relax. You've earned it, my friend.
And we can always drink coffee. I'll let those guys make the call.
Right on. Have a great one, my friend.
You too. Everybody get out there, be safe, have fun.
All right. Number again, 404-872-0750 if you want to give me a call, 800-972-8255. I think we got time to squeeze in John here calling from New York. Where are you calling from in New York, John?
All right. Greetings from the Catskill Mountains, where happiness is a freezer full of venison and wild turkey.
Oh, now you're talking, my friend. You got any of that ready to go for Thanksgiving here on Thursday?
Well, my Thanksgiving plans are messed up this year, but it's on standby.
Okay.
I would like to, Scott, you touched on Thanksgiving hunts or hunting in the rain. You guys got rain down there today?
We do, actually. But it's a pleasant rain.
Right. About 5 years ago, I had off on a Thanksgiving day. It was a miserable, windy, rainy day. I dressed up in my Gore-Tex. I walked to the top of the mountain. I kicked out a deer under my tree stand. I climbed up there. That little deer came back, and it was so miserable. I had my hood up and everything, limited vision. So I just watched that little deer. And less than a half hour, I figured if that deer saw something, it lifted its head up, and it sure did. Lifted its head up, and I lifted mine up, and there was a 6-point buck, which I shot on Thanksgiving Day in the rain. It was miserable weather, but that's how that ended up.
Well,
now, also, you touched on hand warmers.
Yes, absolutely. They are the little secret that a lot of people really should consider carrying with them out in the woods.
Well, we got the toe warmers and hand warmers, and I'm glad I had a couple of toe warmers stuck in my pocket. When we got to the top of the mountain last week, which was open day rifle season, it was 14 degrees. When the sun came up, it started to get windy, and it was blowing through both my knit hats.
Hey, John, I'll tell you what, I got about 20 seconds here before I got to bail. Let me put you on hold. I want to get back to you here real quick, and we'll do that thing. In the meantime, y'all, you're listening to O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB News and Talk, WEEI Boston, and coast to coast on SB Nation Radio. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Get right back on the phones here. If you want to call, 404 404-872-0750, or outside of Atlanta metro area, 800-972-8255. That's the number John called from New York. We had to kind of bail on him for a minute there to take care of some commercials, but he's back. He's talking about hunting some deer in the rain. What's on your mind, John?
Right. Touching up on those hand warmers that you just open up the package and just hit in the air, they start to warm up and they go like 8 hours or so.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Well, we got them for toe warmers also and hand warmers. But like I was starting to say, it was 14 degrees opening day last week, and I was all set there. But then the wind kicked up. It was blowing through both my knit hats, and I could feel it cold air on my balding, graying head.
Oh, wow.
So I grabbed some of them toe warmers out of my pocket, and I popped a couple of them and threw them in my hats, and that made all the difference in the world, believe it or not. I was able to sit up in that stand and get my deer.
I got another one here for you, and it's not so much a hat thing, but a glove thing. Now, one thing I found out, and I thought this was interesting, is I read about a gentleman who likes to wear surgical gloves underneath his gloves while he goes hunting, for two reasons. One, it keeps his hands warmer, but two, if it gets wet or whatever, it keeps his hands dry.
Huh. I never heard that
pretty nifty.
before. Yep.
Yeah.
Scott, just you touched on rifles. You know, what might be a good rifle for a young person. I hunt with a Ruger Mini 30. It shoots the 7.62 by 39. And
yes, the Russian round, and that is actually that's an excellent round for deer hunting.
It gets the job done every year.
It definitely does. And you know what's interesting, though, is that you don't find a lot of bolt actions that use that round, and I find that actually surprising. As ubiquitous as that 39 round is, that 7.62 39, it's everywhere. It's dirt cheap. It's accurate. It's definitely big enough to take any game in North America. Its range is a little limited. That's the only downside to the round. I mean, probably 200 yards in's your best bet. But it's very effective. I've never understood why it hasn't taken off more as a hunting round.
No, it works for me.
Yeah, and exceptionally good if you're going out hog hunting too with the once again these semi-auto rifles. In this case, it would probably be an SKS, but just as effective as an AR pattern rifle and slamming hogs left and right. So, yeah, you make a good call with that round. I think it should be used more. I'm actually surprised it's not.
Yep. Everybody have a blessed Thanksgiving.
I plan to do that, sir. You do the same, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Take care. All
right. Later on, John. 404-872-0750 is the number. 800-972-8255. And, you know, as long as we're talking about deer hunting in the wet here, let's just jump right back into it here with 7 habits of mature rutting bucks. Now, these are the characteristics that behavioral and so on that bucks will typically exhibit this time of the year, I guess. So without further ado, when the rut kicks off, the first thing you can count on a buck to do is to religiously search for does within the home range. Duh. That's the whole point of the year. As soon as those does go into estrus and the buck gets a whiff of that, that's his main focus. So they are devoted to finding the does during the rut. They cover their home range and then some, and then some, and more often in search of does each fall. However, every deer has their own personality, and how far they travel, how extensively they search is going to depend on that particular deer's inclinations. Okay? Another characteristic, they feed less during the rut. Again, depending on the deer's personality, most bucks spend less time searching for food when the rut is on. They're searching for the doe. That's what's preoccupying their mind. That's what most of their time is devoted to. So they tend to lose a little weight during this period as well. But hey, you know, that's what they're wired to do. That's what happens this time of the year. A lot of them will move during midday and lunch hours than at other times of the year. Now, this is interesting, I thought. Bucks are adaptive animals, okay? And they're not stupid. They're not, you know, they're not going to win any intelligence contest, don't get me wrong, but they know how to do things. They learn how to move when people don't, okay? pressure will affect their movement. So if they happen to smell or see, what they perceive as a predator during certain times of the day, they'll learn to avoid those times of the day from moving. Okay. Bucks, this sounds funny, cruise certain areas more than others. I like the term cruise. It makes them just sound like, they're out looking for it, right? Which they are. Most bucks know where and how to find the does during the rut. Okay, but they have certain areas that they like to circle around. What you'll find commonly is that they'll be going through the doe bedding areas, of course, leeward ridges, field edges, pitch points, saddles, and so on. They focus on traditional areas where you might put a nice stand or something like that. But this is what you want to do. You want to target where they happen to be moving around as a place to get them. Spend less time working the rubs and scrapes once the does begin entering estrus. They'll still tend to do this behavior, but they do it a little bit less. Again, they're more interested in finding the does than they are in laying down rut signs, okay? So they'll spend more time in that pursuit, and you might, I'm not saying don't hunt with the rut sign, but it may be more of a waste of time. You probably want to move your hunting areas elsewhere. This is interesting too. Bucks will drive estrus does into the thickest cover. Now, most might think that that's kind of gallant, I think. Hey, let's put the little doe here in the thickest area where she'd be most protected, but it's not that at all. He's just being kind of selfish. He's protecting her from competition with the other bucks. So when a buck will find a doe in estrus, they'll push it to the nearest thick cover that they can find so they can just kind of keep an eye on things, as it were, okay? And they will defend this doe if other bucks try to move into the territory, okay? Finally, another little interesting thing here with the does, they'll spend 24 to 48 hours with the estrus doe, okay? This is the lockdown period, and it's a very difficult time to hunt because obviously they're not moving. So you're either going to be in the action or you're not, and that's going to depend on just how much these deer are intent on pursuing the doe. So when this happens, if it starts getting a little thin, start working the thicker areas of cover. As we mentioned, that might be a place where that buck has kind of hid away his doe. Okay, so where else should you be looking? Focus on edges. Okay, the animals love a transitional habitat, meaning that it's an area where tree lines might change from a hard to a pine kind of a wood or something like that, but woods to plains, they kind of work those areas. So just focus on those areas. That's where the bulk of the population will be found, okay? Find a quality food source for the animal, all right? Yeah, they're running around and the bucks are chasing the does and estrus, and that's their main focus, but they've got to eat at some point. Look for places where they might find a ton of acorns or some kind of a plant that they're into, or even if you have a food plot, work that area and see what you can do about bagging a buck there. Locate some doe groups. When you find the quality bedding cover, you might find a few does there. That's a good place to look. And finally, use pinch points and funnels. Deer, they are prone to traveling the path of least resistance from point A to point B. If they can avoid going over things, under things, around things, they're going to do it, okay? So find your places where they're going to be moved into what you call a choke point, simply to avoid any obstacles in their path. Hope that helps you out as you head out into the woods today and in the next few weeks. In the meantime, let's go back to the phones. We've got Dennis calling from Dallas, Georgia. He's got a question about a deer rifle for his son. Good morning, Dennis. What can we do for you here on O'Neill Outside?
Yeah, I'm looking for a Christmas present for my son this year, and he's wanting a bolt-action rifle. I've been looking at a lot of the bolt-actions out there, synthetic stocks, the wood stocks, different calibers. I'm just kind of torn between which caliber to use. There's a new caliber called a 6.5.
Oh, the Creedmoor.
Yes, Creedmoor, and that's a new one on me. I've never seen that one before, but I've talked to some people that said it's a very good caliber bullet.
6.5 Creed is outstanding, and as far as a first rifle is concerned, it's a very good round as well. How old is your son, by the way?
He's 16.
16. Okay, plenty good for a 6.5 Creed. The 6.5 Creedmoor is very good in that it's very similar to the 308 as far as how its ballistics are, range, and so on. But it's a softer shooting round, and it's a longer, it shoots flatter over a longer distance than the 308. Great round, outstanding round, and it's one of the hottest ones out there for firearms manufacturers. You'll find a ton of choices using that round. Slight downside, the ammo's a little more expensive. It's not bad, but it's a little more expensive than, say, like a 308. And if you're looking for reloading or anything like that, it's a little more difficult to find reloading supplies for that caliber versus, say, a 30-06 or a 308.
Well, does it have knockdown power? That's what I'm concerned about.
Plenty. It is, if you're going deer hunting with a 6.5 Creed, you are sitting pretty, sir. Again, very similar to the 308 in its ballistics, just a little flatter shooting with a little bit less recoil. But a great round, and you can't go wrong with it. Plenty of manufacturers. I would say look at a package from, like, say, a Savage or a Smith & Wesson or so on that includes a scope, and you'll be good to go for about less than $400, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Mossberg.
Let me do this. Let me put you on hold real quick. I've got to go to a break, and we can get back and talk about guns more, because I love doing that. All right, so stand by, Dennis. You're listening to O'Neill Outside on 95.5 WSB. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. We are talking rifles with Dennis here in Dallas, Georgia, and your question centered around a Mossberg rifle, if I'm not mistaken, before we went to break. So what's on your mind regarding that, sir?
Well, I went and checked them all out, some of the different name brands, and I kind of did like the Mossberg.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a walnut stock bolt action with a combo Vortex scope, and I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that one.
Well, actually, now you can't really go wrong with a Mossberg. They've been around forever in America. They are an outstanding marquee, certainly among the best when it comes to shotguns, no question about that. And speaking personally, I have a Mossberg 22 rifle that my father gave me from when he was a kid. He bought it in 1952. This gun shoots straight as an arrow and perfectly to this day. No lie. So I would have zero issues with that whatsoever. It's a good marquee, man. You really can't go wrong. And I would, I would say this now, Dennis. Now, I'm assuming that you have a rifle as well, correct, sir?
Oh, yes.
And what caliber would you be shooting with that?
Well, I have an old Remington 270 BDL.
Okay.
That I've had for a long time. Then I got my old trusty, 30 Winchester.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say this then. I would do this. If you're looking at a rifle for your son, okay, and you're already using those calibers, which are outstanding for someone your son's age, perhaps just another weapon of that caliber, and that way you cut down on having to get a different caliber for a different weapon, and you're more standardized. I'm sorry, across your weapons platforms.
Okay, sounds great.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, if you're talking 30-30, I mean, I can't think of a kid who would not love to get for instance, a lever action underneath the Christmas tree.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I got when I was a kid, under the Christmas tree.
It is a classic platform. It will take deer without any issues whatsoever. We know this.
Oh yeah.
And very reliable weapon as well. So I might even look at that. If you already have a certain caliber and you're comfortable with it and you're buying your ammo, look to extend the number of weapons that also use that same caliber.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, sir.
No, thank you. Appreciate you calling. Have yourself a wonderful Thanksgiving. Oh, and before I split, any of that venison or anything going to be on the Thanksgiving table this year?
Yeah, it certainly will. Right beside the turkey.
Oh, there you go, my friend. You know how to do it right. Appreciate the call.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. 404-872-0750, 800-972-8255. I love calls like that. I really do. I love talking guns, and I especially love talking about stuff like that when You're talking about bringing a kid into the sport. The shooting sports are excellent, outstanding, and I love them for so many reasons. I got a story here for you along those lines I'm going to share with you, okay? And this concerns a hunter from Minnesota, 19-year-old, okay? And he bagged his first buck. Now, what makes this so special? Two things. First of all, I'm going to give a huge O'Neill Outside congratulations to this 19-year-old. His name is Pierce Penaz, okay? What makes him interesting is that this is a gentleman with Down syndrome who shot his first buck and did so because of a change in some laws in Minnesota. Whoa, really? Yeah, let me explain a little bit here for you, okay? Pierce's dad, Steve, has been hunting with his son on a Minnesota rule that says that he can hunt for up to 2 years, Pierce, with his dad, as long as he's under supervision, and that's through a state apprenticeship that allows him to hunt with a parent or guardian for that 2-year period. However, after the 2-year period of apprenticeship, the state, Minnesota DNR, says that Pierce would have to take a test in order to receive his hunting permit, okay? Here's the trick, though. It's an 8-week course and requires 100 questions on an exam in order to get that ability to continue to hunt. And Pierce's father said that he just does not think that his son is capable of doing this. Now, he's out there capable of all the stuff, you know, is under supervision of his dad. He can load the weapon, he can fire the weapon and everything. And under supervision, you'd think he should be able to hunt legally. But, you know, coming up at the end of this 2-year period, now we have a problem. So what Steve did is he reached out to a representative, Jim Nash, up there in Minnesota, and Jim Nash took up the cause to help this family out, okay? And what he did is he's pushed forth some legislation to enable, once that 2-year period is up, to continue in the parental or guardian supervisory role out shooting with Pierce, okay? And for everybody else in a similar condition. What he's basically saying is that getting outdoors, being able to hunt, fish, enjoy some family traditions, or specifically hunting, I'm sorry, not fishing, but being able to get out with the family and enjoy some of this tradition really goes a long way. And so what Representative Nash has done is he's introduced this legislation for people with disabilities to enable them to embrace hunting, okay? And as such, Pierce was able to bag his first buck at 19 with his dad, and everybody's happy. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I think this is an example of why the outdoors are so great for so many different types of people, because it really allows for people with a broad range of abilities to be able to enjoy certain sports, whether it be fishing, whether it be hunting. I can't tell you how many charitable events I've seen around the Atlanta area with radio stations or private groups that help kids get out in the on the lake and do some fishing or something of that nature. And really, when you think about it, it's one of the most accessible things you can do as far as sports are concerned. Young, old, various abilities. You can get outside and truly enjoy the shooting sport. I'll give you another example here. I was along the lines of somebody with Down syndrome shooting. Some years ago, I was up in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I was at a gun range and got to talking with a gentleman in the lane next to me about a certain pistol that I had that caught his attention. He had never seen one before. So we got to talking about it, and while we're talking, his daughter came over and said she was ready to go, and she was lining up to go on the range, and best guess, I guess she's about 13, 14, something like this, but she had Down syndrome. And so he says, okay, honey, go do your thing. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on this, as her dad was. And she got up to that line, gun's laying there. It was a little Ruger 22 pistol. She picked that gun up. Perfect finger control, nothing on the trigger, outside the trigger guard. She looked down the barrel. She cleared the weapon. She made sure everything was ready to go. She set her target down the range, put in the magazine, racked it, slid it forward. Boom, you're in full battery, and she proceeded to tear that target up. She went nuts, and all of it with perfect weapon discipline, all of it with exceptional skill. And when she wheeled that target back in, exact reverse. Gun was cleared, mag out, slide back, look at the target. I'd say about 7 yards out, typical handgun distance. She put a nice jagged hole about that big in that thing full of 22 rounds, and through 2 magazines, I might add, too. Very excellent. And if you were to, a lot of people would say, well, you shouldn't be doing something like that with somebody in that condition. Wrong. You never know what somebody's capabilities are until they are challenged and until they're allowed to try something. And that's where the outdoors is exceptional. There are so many different activities for people of so many different abilities. And I'm going to tell you about one more, if I may, just before we go to break here in a few minutes. I got a couple I want to tell you about. One more story, more specifically for guys who do the hunting thing. I was out at my Atlanta Skeet and Trap range here, and as I'm getting ready to leave the field on the trap range, 4 men in motorized wheelchairs came rolling up, every one of them with a shotgun on that wheelchair. Every one of them rolled in a line straight up to where they would start their shooting up on the trap field, and every one of them were just slamming the clays left and right. You look at the wheelchairs, you see them decorated, veteran stuff, so I'm assuming some of them were injured in combat and so on, or whatever, through the military. But every one of them were up there. Every one of these 4 guys was slamming targets left and right and having a great time doing it. And one thing I noticed on one of them, he also had a couple of patches on there for duck hunting. So while he's out there having fun at the trap range, he's also getting his skills put together a little bit better as far as getting out into the field and taking care of business with his duck hunting. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, never underestimate anybody. Always give them an opportunity, and never forget that the outdoors gives a lot of those opportunities to a lot of people. 404-872-0750 is the number. My name is Scott Maxim. I'm filling in for O'Neill this week, and I want to hit you up with one more little quick story here. Earlier we talked about we had a question from a listener who wanted to know how to know when your buck that you're hunting is able to be harvested. What's the adult age for a buck? Well, I've got a story here about a hunter from West Virginia who not only tracked a buck to make sure that it was of the proper age to harvest, he tracked it for 6 years. Unbelievable. This is where patience pays off, y'all. Hunter David Miller spotted what would go on to be a 17-point buck on a network of game cameras that he set up in Mingo County, West Virginia, back in 2013. 2013 he set all this up. Excuse me. He tracked this buck for 6 full years until it reached maturity, and then he decided he was going to harvest the animal. And his patience definitely paid off. He got the 17-pointer, right? And got himself on the news and everything like that. But here's what's interesting about his buck. Okay, he says that in the 6 years that he followed this animal, only once did he ever see him in the daylight on his cameras. What? That's right. Every picture that he had of that buck was at night. So what he figured out is that this buck learned early on how to avoid hunters. So what he did is he set himself up at a place where he thought that buck might be, put some trail cameras in place, and scoped it out, and sure enough, it wasn't very much longer before that buck came around to where he was looking, and he was able to harvest that buck. Now, what's the deal, okay? 17-point buck, right? And it was aged at 9.5 years old. That means that Mr. Miller actually started scouting this buck when it was a good 3 years old, just before it was ready to harvest. But he decided he's going to keep an eye on this thing in order to let it grow to its full maturity. Why? Because as we know, as the buck gets older, the rack, the antlers, are more pronounced and more developed in bucks between 5 and 7. Now this one at 9, he got an exceptional buck. There's no question about it. And that is an old deer, man. That guy has been around the forest for a while, and it's not surprising that he said that that buck learned how to avoid hunters and move at certain times. Okay? They're not dumb animals. Remember, we said they are very adaptive. So congratulations to this hunter, David Miller, up in West Virginia. Your patience is an example of what we can all learn to do when we get out in the woods when we're looking to get a deer. Don't go for the quick target. Not always the best way to go. Let that deer grow, let that deer develop, and on the back end, you are going to have a magnificent trophy for the wall. Welcome back to O'Neill Outside. Time to finish up the program with the Medal of Honor recipient reading. This week, Lance Corporal Jed Colby Barker, Medal of Honor for action in November 23rd. Oh, I'm sorry, received the Medal of Honor for November Marine Corps. Okay, sorry. Let's start again. Vietnam, 21 September 1967. During a reconnaissance operation, Barker's squad was suddenly hit by enemy sniper fire. The squad immediately deployed to a combat formation and advanced to a strongly fortified enemy position. When it was again struck by small arms and automatic weapons fire, sustaining numerous casualties. Although wounded by the initial burst of fire, Barker boldly remained in the open, delivering a devastating volume of accurate fire on the numerically superior force. The enemy was intent upon annihilating the small Marine force, and realizing that Barker was a threat to their position, directed the most of their fire on his position. Wow. He was again wounded, this time in the right hand, which prevented him from operating his machine gun. Suddenly and without warning, an enemy grenade landed in the midst of the few surviving Marines. Unhesitatingly and with complete disregard for his personal safety, Barker threw himself upon the deadly grenade, absorbing with his body the full force of the explosion. In a final act of bravery, he crawled to the side of a wounded Marine and administered first aid before dying from his wounds. His bold initiative, fighting spirit, and devotion to duty in the face of almost certain death saved his comrades from further injury or possible death, and reflected great credit upon himself, the Marine Corps, and the U.S. Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life for his country. Lance Corporal Jed Colby Barker, Vietnam, 1967. That's some heavy stuff, and we all need to be thankful that we have men like this out there protecting this country from any kind of threat. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my pleasure to sit in for O'Neill this week on O'Neill Outside. I am very thankful for the opportunity and hope we can do this again sometime. Remember, if you're going to get outside and if you're going to go hunting or fishing this week, take a kid along with you. It's the best thing you could do for them. Get them outside and hopefully pass on a little bit of this outdoor tradition to them. See you next time.
Just an old sweet song.
I once asked a mighty hunter, coming home from the field, how he came to possess such mighty hunting and fishing skill. He said, "I'll tell you a secret, son. I learned everything I know from listening to O'Neill Outside on my radio." O'Neill, O'Neill, O'Neill Outside.